Okay. So I'm so glad to have you all tonight. Tonight, what I want to do is I wanted us to kind of get to know each other. I wanted to spend a little bit of time introducing new people to both the space and then me a little bit. I want to talk about my intentions for this space and also the motivation, right? I think that's really important because I think I'm one of those people who believes that context always matters. So I wanted to share why I created this and what I hope we do together in community. I'm going to briefly go over some community agreements, and then I'm going to show y'all the guide. Um, but I also think that I believe Colleen or Colleen, please correct me.
It's Colleen.
Colleen.
Thank you for asking.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I have someone who, as someone whose name gets screwed up all the time, I try to be very thoughtful.
Yeah, I have a friend I've had for 25 years. She still calls me Colleen.
Yeah, right? Okay. Um, you asked a really great question, so I think I want to make sure I respond to that too. So I'm going to respond to that. Let's start with that because I could easily forget. So for the people who are new to this space, you'll get used to it that I tell people all the time. I'm very Southern in the sense that I'll go up and down the Mississippi River before I land in a place. All right. So what I will say is my first job, my first grown-up pay taxes to the Fed job was Books a Million, which by the way, y'all, it still exists. And I don't know if that means it's a front for the mafia or what. Every time I see a Books a Million, I'm like, dinosaur, dinosaur, dinosaur. Okay, so anyway, that was my first job, right? And I remember so many times people would walk into Books a Million and be like, I want what Oprah's book club is reading. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. And it got to the point where I literally had to like have a stack of like the old magazines to be like, oh, it's this book, right? And so I think a lot of times what a book club is people getting together to be some version of cute, you know. Nothing's wrong with cute, right? But sometimes it's about being conversational, seeking connection and fun. Again, nothing is wrong with that. Enjoyment. Um, Sometimes it could be peer led. But I always got the impression that the people were reading the books, but it was more like just like trendy. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, this is what my suburban mom group is doing. You know what I'm saying? And I think for me, the distinction between a book club and a book study is the embodiment. It is about pulling down whatever the subject matter is, from what I like to call from head to heart to feet. It is reading something with the intention of, I'm going to take this information, I'm going to reflect on it, I'm going to let it change me. And then hopefully, maybe it can change my community and my family and my praxis, right? So there's something about a book study, or even the term says, I'm going deep with it. Now, for my new people, I will also say I have a tendency to make some radio analogies. Um, the peeps in this space gotta know. I'm not gonna start off my most explicit self, but I will say a book club is like a casual affair, whereas a book study is deep commitment to orgasmic bliss. And I'll just that's just, that's just, that's what I'm gonna do. So I hope that answers your question. Hope that I answered your question in terms of the difference there.
I'm intrigued.
Great. Great, great. We tend to talk about orgasms in spaces that I facilitate. All right. So with that being said, I want to talk a little bit about the Patreon community. So God only knows when I started this because I felt like people in the face of what we're calling the racial reckoning of 2020, right? People were like, I need something to do besides post Black squares as part of my anti-racist journey. something that I was not necessarily a deep to ending. Let me rephrase that. I have major reservations about the anti-racism movement. A lot of them. Some of the major reservations have been that I don't necessarily think from a logistical place we as a society are ready to end racism. Especially when I think about how I frame racism, which is an institution and systemic processes and norms that create and maintain racial hierarchies. And partially why I make that assertion is that I don't understand how you can end racism when people haven't divested from whiteness, right? So I decided to create a community to give people the tools to do something that I started in 2016, which was eliminating anti-Blackness from my life and divesting from whiteness, all right? Which is not an anti-racism journey. Lots of people on this call have heard me say, I am not an anti-racist educator. That is not to some people who are. If people feel like that's where they are, that's fine. I'll just say this. For me, it's like anti-racism is like, no, that's a bad analogy too, because dessert before dinner could be fun. It feels like the conversation is out of order, is what I'll say. I think that racism exists because it's a symptom, not a root. Oh, that's the analogy I'm gonna make. It's like not having a conversation with a smoker about them quitting smoking before giving them chemo. It's happening out of order. Meaning you have to deal with the root of why something exists before you can fix the thing. So smoking is the root of what would cause the lung cancer. And to go straight into radiation or chemo without dealing with the smoking seems like a foolhardy journey to me. So that's what I will say. I don't think anti-racism is bad. I just think I don't know how you fix it before you deal with the anti-Blackness in the world. I don't know how you fix it before you deal with whiteness. So there's that. Blah, blah, blah. That's not why we're here. So that is partially why I created the Patreon community. All right. So I'll stop there because it is entirely possible that I share some new information. And when I share new information, I like to give people a chance to react, to respond, to think through, have questions, follow up. So let's stop there. Going once, twice. So, okay. Things about me as the facilitator. I am a Black woman who is descendant of enslaved peoples. Unfortunately, cishet. There's that part. Sometimes disabled because I have endometriosis. I am the oldest of 5 kids. I am very much my mother's daughter. I keep Kleenex close to my computer because I randomly cry. It's almost guaranteed that I'm going to cry before this night is over. My favorite people in the world are my 8 nieces and nephews. My youngest niece, Summer, yesterday, so adorable. She's 2, and her bigger sister, Carly, is 9. I need to stop giving details about these children. Oh, Lord, have mercy. Okay. And we were on the FaceTime yesterday, and she was like, I'm the biggest person in my house. I'm this big, Nanny. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? So anyway, those are my favorite people. I am a sexy Sag who turned 44 2 weeks ago. And I have one divine assignment on the planet. And that divine assignment is to do my part to make sure that the descendants of enslaved people receive reparations. So I have conversations with myself and other people about what reparative justice is, I give people tools to divest from whiteness, tools to eliminate anti-Blackness. I am apparently considered an enemy from within, according to the next president of the United States. People should think carefully about if they want to be associated with me or not. And I have a dog named Sammy who will be 16 in April, and it feels very much like I live with Archie Bunker or Fred Sampson or insert any other very old man that's been on a TV show. Like it. Some of you have met my dog, and he is just grown so ornery, and I feel bullied by him most of the time. So he started to do this thing. I just have to tell y'all. Like, he usually will sit like where my desk is. He'll sit under my desk when I'm working, you know? But now he just nudges me with his nose on my knee all damn day. And it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why aren't we going outside? Why are we going outside? And I'm like, why? It's bad enough when the harassment happens from the outside.
I will
So
hear no more blasphemy about Sammy.
I'm telling you, his nose on my knee. I'm like, dude, I just what? So anyway, that's a little bit of information about me. My first career was I was a college professor for 20 plus years. I resigned from LSU in 2020. The last straw was when they put hashtag Black Lives Matter. Wait, today is Nancy's birthday? She did tell us that. No, when was your birthday, Nancy? Is it today? Nancy?
No, I just mean that I'm 60 years old. My birthday was in the summer, but it's still it's a big number
I
though.
don't remember if you were a sexy Sag too.
No,
Leo.
Leo.
So anyway, I resigned from LSU in 2020. They had the audacity to put hashtag Black Lives Matter on their website, and I was like, I'm out. And I have been doing formal DEI work since 2021, and this year I became an enemy from within. So I guess I'm like low key, you know, right up there with the January 6 people. I don't know. Don't know.
And
Don't know.
I'm
No
happy to be a
flight
co-enemy. I'm happy because you know
Okay,
they're
great.
coming for me
You know,
too. So
I might end up on a no-fly list soon. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows where this is going to go? All right. So that's a little bit about me. We have some newcomers to the space, and I'm so glad to have you all. Again, I want to stop, pause, see if there are any questions, comments, concerns before we get into a little bit about why I created this book study. Okay. All right. So part of the reasons I created this book study. Well, first of all, I need my soul needs to be in the company of people that I feel share my values and beliefs right now, right? So let me just name the very selfish reason. Let's start with the selfishness. Needing that kind of communal care and support. There's that. 2, and this is gonna be me being super shady. We don't create shared humanity by pew-pewing CEOs in parking lots. I'm going to put that out there. There is not a version of reality where white male violence cancels out white male violence. I'm going to say that 2 more times. There is not a version of reality where white male violence stops all the white male violence. So while Luigi may be hot, I mean, if you like that type, we just don't. I don't need more white men walking around with guns. Me personally, like my nephew says, Mary, some people say, but no, that is the solution to all the violence that exists by white men everywhere is not giving more white men's guns to shoot more white men. It just isn't. So the second reason why I created this is because the way we create shared humanity is we divest from those violent systems, we decolonize our lives, we think globally, act locally, we stay committed to our deepest values. And in a moment like this, where sometimes, most of the time, survival seems questionable for our species, we need hope. So the third reason why I created this book study is because times are hard. My words are not enough. They aren't. And when we look to Black wisdom keeping, when we look to indigenous wisdom keeping, which is very different than the wisdom that Robin DiAngelo has stolen, that is where I find comfort and hope. And then I will say community, and this is some of y'all learned from a shared friend of the community, Tommy Allgood. He tells us that community is what heals all of this, and that is one of my favorite things that I've loved learning from them. All right. Oh, last thing. All right. So we need ancestral wisdom that's Black and indigenous. Community heals us, and I will say this last bit. If you weren't aware of it now, I want to be very, very clear. We are living in one of those periods of times where people would have asked, where were you and what did you do? That is where we are. And I was talking to, I think it was Mary last week or recently. I feel like this was a conversation I had with Mary, but maybe I'm making this shit up. But I was like, I think about like something like Japanese internment. And I'm like, man, did you and I talk about Japanese internment? Okay, right? And we're like, what were the other people doing? When the United States military rounded up Japanese Americans and Japanese people and put them in concentration camps, where everybody just like, ooh, like, I guess that seems cool. Like, when people say, what would you have done during the Holocaust? Plenty of Americans knew that there were boats that were filled with Jewish folks, came to the shores, and were sent back to Nazi Germany, right? So we are in that what did you do part of this shit. And I don't want to sound ableist, but the what would you do is not arguing with adults or people or strangers on the internet. That is not the what would you do. It's what did you do with like-minded people in this space? What did you do with your family that you love? What did you do with your neighbors who are hungry, food insecure? What did you do in your community's school district meetings? Even if you don't have kids that go to public school, what did you do with your congressional leaders? Right? Did you sign petitions? Did you show up on Tuesdays to provide testimony, to fill out comment cards? That's the what did you do? It's not, I made a lot of 90-second TikTok videos. Right? Hell, I would say it's not even like I just voted that one time. All right? So those are some of the motivations behind this book study. All right? Stop for reflection, pause, questions, comments, concerns, any of the like. So, community agreements. I'm going to go now because I don't have any intention to go through them when we do it. Where is the book study notes? I want to show you all the book study guide. Where is it? I just had it. I guess I made it go away. Okay, here it is. So we're gonna do community agreements, and you all can follow along with me Actually, before we go through the community agreements, I did want to take an opportunity to celebrate Alexis. And I was thinking it might be really fun, if you all, again, you've already consented to volunteering, but I have this section called Celebrating Alexis. And so if anyone wants to share like one sentence about what reading Alexis has done for you in the past, that would be great. And then maybe I can like a snapshot and put it in so she could it or that. But I just want to say that Alexis Pauline Gumbs is a what I would call a writing of the canon. And so that means that their writing isn't just for a particular like period of time, although it speaks to a particular period of time, but I think it can speak for now and forever and always, right? Some people write in such a rich way that their words will make sense whenever, what century, whatever species picks it up, right? Uh I feel like us Homo sapiens are on our last leg. It's I hope we get it. But if not, whoever is after us will find one of her books to be like, oh my God. Right. And so she is a poet, an educator, a Black feminist writer. Her work exists in the intersections of Black survival, peer liberation, ecological wisdom, and ancestral legacy. She knows the voices and lessons of figures like Audre Lorde, Octavia Butler, and Harriet Tubman. So those are some of the people on her ancestral boards of directors. We have in this community studied with Alexis before in the Undrowned Black Feminist Lessons from Maroon Mammals. And it was a powerful use of poetry and history and imagination speaking to us from mammal life. Like, I never knew so much about orcas until I read that book, and it transformed how I thought about how even me, right? And I like to think of myself as an educated, informed, justice-seeking person, relies on the hierarchy of humanity and like being a human being when I think about like life, right? So it really made me curious about how I have conversations about non-human life forms. And that was a gift directly given to me from Alexis, right? So now I don't rush to kill bugs because I'm like, wait a second, it has an ecological purpose, you know? Like, hey, spider, I'm not gonna mess up your shit. Just please don't bite me. Now that's not perfect because they're roaches. Y'all. If I see a roach, I'm killing it because as far as I know, I have not seen what they do, and so I just. So anyway, but beyond her writing, she's a community-centered scholar. She's the co-founder of the Mobile Homecoming Project. There are links in our book study guide that talks about that project and offers ways to tangibly support the project through giving. All right. So her work is a gift. It forces us to reflect, imagine, and act with love, intention, and care. Gabby so thoughtfully, I guess it was like 2 months ago. What is time? I don't really remember. But she invited me or just sent me or reminded me or whatever a link to Alexis doing a talk about the book, and it was so good. And that's what also inspired me to build the study, is this idea of the Lourdian questions. All right, so also shout out to Gabby for inviting me into that space of learning. All right, so that's a little bit about Alexis, and if anybody wants to come off mute and share what they've learned from Alexis, again, 1 or 2 sentences, we could do that and then move on to the community agreements.
I'll piggyback onto what you said about Alexis really making you think about how we exist in this world in human form, but that is in relation to all the other non-human beings, which and like just is incredible how she showed the gifts that these other sea mammals in particular in that book, right, you know, had this like the incredible things they can do and how we can learn from them, and how I guess it made me realize like one of the things that really struck me was like, oh, I forget which being it was, but like the baby is just like freshly born, and it doesn't know that it can like go like 1,000 feet down and hold its breath the whole time, and then it just kind of like figures that out on the fly, and because it kind of has to. And that was just one example, but it really made me think like, wow, like how did it do that? Like how did it figure it out? And it just made me think about so many things like that, and how that could apply to my own life, and and of course how we can live in reciprocity with all the other beings on the planet.
Mm.
So yeah, it
That's
was,
so rich, Mary Beth. Thank you so much. Living in
yeah.
reciprocity with other living creatures and beings. I love that.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to shout out Alexis? Okay.
I mean, I'll just say quickly that Alexis Pauline Gumbs is just she's like walking, breathing poetry. I mean, she's just so lyrical in her thinking, and she's so gracious and abundant in her sharing it with us in the way that she describes how she's experiencing whatever she's experiencing. You know, I honestly would let her talk. Like I would just love to listen to her talk about just anything, like her sandwich. You know, she's just one of those people where she's just like getting so much out of life. And I've been having conversations like this with people about how we're going to, get through the next period of time together. And I've been saying something that I really want to remember, and certainly it's one of the reasons why I always come back to this group and these people, is that we can't let anyone steal the potential of ourselves individually, and ourselves, in a thoughtful, nutritious group of folks, right? In a community that is a soft place and a challenging place and a beautiful place. So Alexis gives me so much because she reminds me of how incredibly powerful we are, and to never, ever, ever let anyone take that away.
I love that. That is perfect. That's such a great tribute to her. All right, so that information about supporting Alexis and their writing and so forth is going to be available in our review. Okay, so community agreements are basically how we choose to interact in a space with each other. Here's the thing. As far as I know, everybody who's going to be a part of this is over 18, an adult. And I am typically not in the business of policing grown people, right? But I will say is that sometimes knowing how to handle each other and share spaces is important. So that's why we have these community agreements. So a few of them that I just want to really make sure to emphasize is we seek consent before sharing feedback, advice, or support. So an example of this would be like, hey, Gabby, I noticed that you shared X, and I was curious if I can give you some feedback around that. All right. So those kind of things. Just in general, I just think consent should be practiced outside the bedroom, and that's just like a practice I use to guide my life. Listening and hearing are similar, but they're not the same. Those are different behaviors. Hearing happens for most of us passively, whereas listening requires deep and thoughtful engagement. We practice consent and acknowledge privacy. My belief is that this is a shared space and we should hold that as sacred. So I always tell people it's like Vegas, lessons leave, stories stay. All right. So for example, I made the statement that there's a difference between a book study and a book club. And I said a book study is like orgasmic, whereas like book club is casual fling. Now, let's just say hypothetically, I gave you all a story about my latest orgasmic moment. Which for a second I thought about. So then you would, if you wanted to talk about it outside of the thing, you would just say, hey, y'all, book studies and book clubs are different. Book clubs are flings. Book studies are intimate. You wouldn't tell the story about my orgasm. All right, so that's the difference. Don't worry, y'all. I'm not about to tell y'all stories about my orgasms. All right, like Wanda's like, oh shit, what did I sign up for? Can y'all testify? I have never gone into detail about my orgasms. All right, thank you very much. Okay, I just encourage people to have them. That's all I'm saying. It is a great tool for grounding yourself in the fight ahead. We refrain from disconnecting our observations, overgeneralizing, and relying on you language. We use I language when we can. I feel, I believe, I deserve. We try to avoid both and thinking. No, we try to invite both and thinking, so we create space for nuance. We recognize that intent and impact are not the same things. This is so important, y'all, because even now in this post-election, whatever we're calling this life, people are very much still hung up on, well, I didn't mean to, which is fine, except for even if you didn't mean to, this is where we are now. Your impact. Your impact matters. If you're running with me, you know that I believe that every human being, regardless of gender, sexuality, race, ability, status, is worthy of dignity, kindness, and wellness. You are valuable because you're human. That's it. That's the tagline. It's not tied to your bank account, the size of your bra. You know, it's just it's because you breathe. So if everyone operated from the place of I matter, I have value, I'm loved, then we wouldn't be trying to tell other people of that shit. And I have found in my experience that the most toxic people are people who actually don't feel like they are worthy of dignity and kindness. And then they just seek validation from external systems. And anyone who is relying on external system, dopamine hit, you are in a dangerous, dangerous position. All right, dangerous. We practice time fluidity around these parts. So I'm always going to try to keep us on schedule. Our is going to be 90 minutes, but I'm not going to be that person who's like, 90 minutes, get off the line. If we're holding a special kind of conversation or even holding someone's like in the space, I want to let spirit do what spirit needs to do, right? Time is a social construct, like most things are. I want to set all times, and I didn't do such a good job of this with the first book study. I think I could have done a little better. But part of the reason why I have a Celebrating Alexis section of the study guide is because I really want us to really engage with Gumbs in the work too, right? Honor the text and the work and the creator behind it. So if you're somebody who threads, you know, maybe like at Alexis taught me this today, or even if you just find a way to make sure that when you're talking about the book, you cite the Black person who created it. All right. Like, oh, because sometimes people say things like, I was reading this book and da da da. No, every time you say you read this book, I want you to say, I was reading Alexis Pauline Gumbs. You must say her whole name. Reading Alexis Gumbs, Survival is a Promise. And this is what I learned. All right. In a world that is constantly snatching Black women and femmes IP, it's important to attach our IP to our name at all times. Also, stop citing white people who steal Black people's ideas. And then lastly, practice collective care. Make space for the rest, laughter, and joy, because this too is resistance and healing. I don't think there's ever been a book study where at least I know for certain I have broke out in tears, and we carefully hold each other in that. And I think that's another reason why this is a book study and not a book club, because we honor the 360 experience you have when you read it, right? So this brings up, book study is running from January to June. Now, initially when I posed that we were doing this book study, I was like, we're gonna do it 6 weeks. And then I saw the book and I was like, and y'all, to be honest, I feel like the 6 months is still rushing it. Like, this could literally be a year thing, okay? So I believe in like letting it move through the way it needs to, much like orgasms. So all right, so some things just can't be rushed. Yes, Totally, that's wrong. Gabby, make sure you talk to your friend and tell her that it's like every
This
session.
is new for all of us. This
Yes,
is new for
every
all
session
of us.
I can be about orgasms. I promise you. I promise you. I promise you. Okay, got it. So, with that being said, let's stop. Let's see if people have questions about the community agreements, and or feel like you want to offer anyone like any additional ones. There you go, Mary. Sure does. Going once, going twice. All right. So you all have the week. We're going to be meeting on last Tuesdays, first Tuesdays. I tried really hard to set up the Zoom where you just had to do the calendar invite for one. There's just no way that works. There's just limits to the customization. So unfortunately, I had to do a Zoom meeting for first Tuesdays and a Zoom meeting for last. So you're gonna have to do both registrations, but it's like literally just put your email address and your name, right? So you see that those registration links are at the top, but I'll also put them in the chat here. And then you can automatically add that to your calendar as well. I want to talk about grace and compassion here. All right. Here's the thing. We're going to show up on first Tuesdays and last Tuesdays. Some people will be able to show up to every Tuesday. Some people won't. I'm not a judge. It just is. All right. We believe in giving people plenty of space to breathe. I will say that there is something that makes the space uniquely transformative and enriching the deeper you invest in it. All right. So I think it's a more fulfilling, you as a participant will be fulfilled more the more you come, but also we will learn more from you the more you, because like we become more relational. All right. So that's what I will say. No one's gonna get kicked out because you just, missed a Tuesday. And you all have the schedule right now. Okay. So you have the dates, you have the schedules. If you have to do workarounds with family or friends, you might be able to go ahead and say, hey, I already know that, whatever. But the point is you have all the business. Now, part of the reason why I also dictated this, because I'm going to try something new, right? I get into what I call professor mode pretty quickly. And what it becomes is a space where I do the majority of the talking and then people add some reflection. And I want to encourage you all, and I've really thought about this. This is for what I'll call people who have done book studies before. What I want you to do is think about being very courageous. And okay, so I'm going to tell a backstory. Recently, I was sitting on a panel, and the panel was about how white women can become better allies, something to that extent. That's not a language I use, so notice I said it wasn't my panel, I was invited to it. Because if it was my panel, I would have never used the term white women allies. That shit don't go together for me. It just don't. But to be fair, I don't even go around using the term allies, so it's not even like I'm hating on white women. It's just like, that's not my shit. But there was this question, and the question one of the white women asked was like, when other people are acting a fool in a black woman's comments or saying something rude or racist, da-da-da-da, is it okay for me to get in the comments and go at them? And somebody was like, yes, you should do that. And I was like, the hell you should, right? And there's a couple reasons for that, right? Let's just take a standard Karen, all right? I'm overgeneralizing right now, all right? Because I give humanity to people who are white too. But let's just say standard Karen. She's like, I read white privilege and all the stuff that white women do when they become anti-racist. And now, because I know racism is real, I can go at other white people in the comment section. Here's the thing. I don't actually recommend that if you are new to reflection. If you are stuck in what Dr. Janet Helms calls stage 2 of racial development. Because stage 2 says, oh, I see the violence and the ickiness of racism, right? And all I can do is judge other white folks so that I don't have to be reflective, right? I don't recommend that. What I do recommend is once people get out of stage 2 and see their humanity and start seeing the humanity of all other people, including other white people, then they can carefully engage. Folks like Amy, who I've seen do this all the time, actually, right? It's like, hey, here's some curiosity to offer. Here's some reflection. That's a thoughtful response, right? As opposed to, you suck, which I just see so many random Karens do. Because that's the easiest thing to be, is you suck and I'm good. It takes so much generosity of spirit, so much self-reflection, so much ongoing investment to be like, hey, Karen over here, I'm not sure why you felt like it was appropriate to talk to a Black woman like this, but can you tell me more? Right? So let's practice that out, right? And let me tell you, I don't know if y'all have seen some of this, but Black women, the great step back is real. It's a thing. I am literally going to try to figure out how little I can show up on social media now. Literally, little. All right? Especially considering that now I'm everything within. So, like, who knows? But the point is, now's your time. Right? Like, so what I would like people to do, considering you have all of this, I want you to look into this thing and be like, I will totally co-facilitate week 2, week 5, week 6. That is the invitation. All right. For lack of a better phrase, I understand how heteronormative this statement is, but man up. The days of Black women and femmes, like, I know that nobody on this call looks at me performatively, but this is like getting your reps in. All right. So I'm going to stop because I'm saying it invitationally, but also I'm also saying for whatever is next, right? The muscle that you have to build, this is part of that. All right. And then God save me from the white people who do feel like they can lead conversations, who are not under any kind of accountability from Black and Indigenous femmes. Like, it does not make sense. I see it all the freaking time. And it is also so evident who isn't in community with Black women, who isn't in community with Indigenous folks. Like, it is just so glaring. You know, it's like when you meet a man that you know just is abusive to his partner. You don't have to hear him say it, you just know it. All right. So I think that people should be practicing in these kind of spaces what they're going to do out loud. Capiche? All right. Let's talk about that. How does that feel? If it's discomfort, if it's uncomfortable, let's talk about that discomfort. Like if you have questions, thoughts, concerns, let's talk about it right now.
Nina, I think that is an amazing opportunity for us to learn and practice these skills in community, under guidance. And so just want to thank you for that. And I will, as far as this particular ask goes, be happy to co-facilitate any of the chapters. Let me know, or if you want me to pick one, I will.
No, all you need to do is go into the document and just put co-facilitated by. That's
Okay.
it.
All right.
Now, the invitation I have for new folks like Rhonda is I actually want to invite you into this too, but my ask is that you all think about that after like March, after you've seen it done some. Okay? So again, this is an opportunity for people to get their reps in. All right? And then let me also just say this. This is a gift to me. I have been really wanting to do more, but I just don't have the capacity. So this also helps me with that, okay? All right. So it's also very much a personal request. Alrighty. So any questions, comments, concerns? Which, by the way, like, I wouldn't even make this offer if I thought I couldn't trust you all with that. Which, let me just get a second. Y'all know I don't believe in giving white people flowers, but let me just say this. Post-election, so many people were online, at least on my side of the internet, and they were like, how did this happen? The white women, all the, it's like, all the white women, gather them, you know, gather the white women. Look what they've done. And I was like, what are y'all talking about? What's happening, right? And I don't even know who I was talking about, but they were like, the white women, they just didn't know. I'm like, not my white women. I don't, which I know that sounds very ownership, right? But I'm just saying, like not the white woman I'm in community with. You get what I'm saying? So I do want you to know that I wouldn't have offered that if I didn't trust y'all to hold the space with the values that I have. Okay. That is the closest thing I have to a cookie to give. All right. So I look forward to seeing Mary and Nancy engage in this and to grow in that, right? Because that, again, I think for such a time as this is what's needed. Oh, okay. One more thing, one more story, and it will close. A few months ago, I was involved in a community. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna stop the recording before I tell this story. All right. So I'm gonna close this out. If there does anyone have any questions or comments that might be beneficial or seek clarity before I close us out? We're good? Okay.